Greetings, welcome back to Black Bear News, where we are discussing abrupt climate change, destruction of the biosphere, and that is what we are doing. Full stop. There's no way around. There's no way around the evidence, really. I mean, you can't. I'm sure there's quite a few people who want to read the data and the evidence and make it into something else, or something less threatening, or something that, way over the horizon, but it's not that bad. But that the evidence that is already there right now is already telling us that we're not in good shape. So if we are to have a chance at mitigating this or redirecting our fate, it's going to have to be quite drastic. I wanted to talk about a video. Somebody linked a video to me, and I'm sorry if I can't remember who. But it was Naomi Wolf on her channel, which I think is called The Daily Clout. Anyways, I think I sent this to myself. But did I actually? No, maybe I didn't. Anyways, it's somewhere. I'll find it, but I'll link the video. It's interesting. She goes through she reads the actual Green New Deal document, I guess, proposed by Ocasio-Cortez and others, and kind of reads through it and, gives the high points and the low points. There are some low points. There are some eyebrow-raising provisions in there. And one of the main problems, I guess, she had with it was that there was going to be, proposes the election of the selection of a committee, a 15-person committee. So 15 people would be in charge of quite a lot of agenda and quite a lot of money directed towards this agenda. And so I'll link this video. You should just watch it. It's an interesting take by her. It's also interesting because as I was watching it, I was kind of feeling like, part of me was feeling like it was nitpicky, and another part was feeling like, okay, these are actual things that we should be concerned about. So maybe let's not, be okay with this as it stands. And that's kind of, part of the pros and the cons of the world we live in these days, with social media and so much available to us about what is going on in the world. And, there's an ever, far-reaching cry for transparency, which I totally believe in. And we are able to see things and know things that we couldn't see or know in the past. And that is part of why alternative media is on the rise and why it is necessary. If we are going to have a future, we are going to need to know what is going on, and who's got their hands on the levers, and who is doing what with those hands on the levers. But part of me was also saying, like, okay, we're gonna nitpick to death, the people that are actually trying to propose something worthwhile in our government institutions, as opposed to just get upset about, the government in general, and then, Republicans are terrible and Democrats are not very far behind. And, here comes some people with some, really radical legislation and, the energy and the cojones to do, to propose this and try to fight for this. And we're going to just, break this all down and nitpick it to death. I don't know. There's a part of me that feels like, nobody is perfect. No resolution is perfect. If we're going to actually have some radical restructuring of our economy in the name of combating climate change, and we're going to have to do it really quickly, we're going to have, unfortunately, we're going to have to strike forward, as best we can. We're not going to have time to have everybody go like, can we see this? Was the committee on it? Like, I believe in the transparency process. I totally do. At the same time, if we're going to nitpick something to death for 2 or 3 years, it's not in, and, at the end we get a lot of like, well, I don't know. What do you think? I don't know. This isn't perfect. We can't go for this. We're not going to get anything done in time. So we're going to actually, we're going to have to elect some people that are going to have to charge forward. Like, I do agree that, the New Deal, this is built on the New Deal that FDR, or the a New Deal type program initiative that FDR introduced during the Great Depression. But the thing is he was problematic. There were things that I'm sure he was doing that he wanted to do that, people had problems with. And he just kind of rammed a lot of stuff through. So, I'm sure that there were a lot of faults and a lot of failures in the New Deal and how that was proposed and how that was implemented. I'm sure there were a lot of people who were like, no, I'm not with this. I'm not for this. No, no, sir, we can't have this. But it was necessary in order to dig the country and the economy. One of the big problems about the New Deal is that it saved capitalism, right? It made capitalism viable again and let it, and it didn't just, capitalism might have died in those decades during the Great Depression. And maybe it should have died. Right now we're looking at capitalism being basically the driver of the destruction of the earth, right? So now's a good time for capitalism to die. And if you had, if I were to put forth my proposals and say like, this is actually, Green New Deal is, that's awesome, but this is actually what we need to do in order to save ourselves from climate change. I'm sure that, there would be 3,000 different points of view on why this would never work. At some point, we have to elect people or put into motion certain programs, certain ideas, a plan. We need to put those things into motion, and we're just going to have to kind of like, football our way through it. You're going to have to just like tuck the ball and run and put your hand out and just, plow through the naysayers, because it's not going to happen any other way. You're just going to have to, get some people that are, 80% on the right track and like, just never mind the 20%, just go forward. That is also, the flip side, the other edge of the sword with, transparency in social media and having everything be out there for everybody to comment and be concerned about. All those things are valid. All the concerns are valid. But if it gets in the way of actual, anything actually getting done, or drags down the best of the ideas and the best of the people and leaves us with shit, let's say, a la the 2016 election, and that's the thing is like Bernie got dragged and Jill Stein got dragged, and like the people who really, had 80% correct agendas, and they had probably, there were 10 or 20% questionable things on their side, but like, so we couldn't elevate those people because, they weren't perfect. At least on social media, at least, on the super social justice warrior end of the spectrum. Like, these people weren't perfect enough to back or be behind. And actually, I call straight up bullshit on that. They were way better than the choices that we were given, and the choices that we were given should have been the ones that got absolutely dragged and not allowed anywhere near the presidency. But anyways, so that was a big old long rant just to begin this. I'm going to link that video down below. It's a good take. It's an interesting take. And I'm just going to read some climate change things. The problem with doing videos late at night, when I've lost most of my energy for the day, is that, my brain just doesn't work as all the beautiful, wonderful thoughts I had when I woke up in the morning and all through the day, don't necessarily congeal into like a really crystal clear picture that I want to say at night. But you get the general gist of it. This is from the Bristol Bay Times, and I got this via Nick Humphrey's Facebook page. Extreme lack of sea ice, fall, heat, mark 2018 weather. And this is from Alaska. A stunning shortage of Bering sea ice in spring and record warmth in autumn marked what scientists say will be one of the warmest years recorded in Alaska, raising questions about everything from the future of commercial fishing to new agricultural opportunities. Alaska's most extreme 2018 climate event was the lack of Bering sea ice, growing only to half its previous lowest size in 2001, said Rick Toman, a climatologist with the University of Alaska Fairbanks. That had consequences in Western Alaska coastal communities. So the Bering Sea ice grew only to half of its previous lowest size in 2001. So I don't know, all you ice is still growing people, where does this fit into your calculations? That had consequences in Western Alaska coastal communities, causing winter flooding in villages usually ringed by protective sea ice and raising risks for people hunting on iffy ice or by boat instead of snow machines. This says January 4th, so I'm assuming this is from today. It is absolutely unprecedented, said Toman. We've never seen anything like it. We've seen nothing like it in records extending from modern satellite data back to whalers' logs in the 1800s. The limited ice, coupled with high sea surface temperatures and a mildly warm atmosphere, ensured that 2018 will be one of the 5 warmest years in Alaska history. The state averaged about 30.1 degrees statewide, Toman said, based on a preliminary estimate. It will mean the 4 warmest years in the state have been recorded in the last 5 years, with 2002 being the only outlier. He said 2016 was the warmest ever year for Alaska at 31.9 degrees, based on records back to 1925. Climate change is the canvas that all this is being painted on, he said. Some of the country's most rapid changes due to warming climate are happening in Alaska. The nation's only Arctic state, the 4th National Climate Assessment report reported in November. Fixing Alaska's climate-related damage could cost $110 million to $270 million a year, it estimated. Okay. So this goes on a bit longer. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but you guys get the idea. So I'm going to read this article, or a little bit of it. This is actually pretty old, or a few weeks old. Old news, but I just wanted to touch on this. California Attorney General says PG&E could face murder charges. I saw this a couple days ago and I wanted to say something about it, and I just never got a chance. California's Attorney General has told a federal judge it's possible that the state's largest power utility, Pacific Gas and Electric, could face charges up to murder if investigators find reckless operation of power equipment caused any deadly wildfires in the past 2 years. Let me give you the chances of that actually happening. That's slim to zero. That's not going to happen. They may find, I mean, they would have to scapegoat a couple of people, but I really, really doubt that's even likely. But it's an interesting headline. The Sacramento Bee reports the brief is purely advisory, of course, and any criminal charges would most likely be filed by county district attorneys, not the state. Well, there you go. The opinion was submitted to a judge overseeing a criminal case involving a PG&E natural gas pipeline explosion that killed 8 people in San Francisco suburb of San Bruno in 2010. PG&E was convicted of violating federal pipeline safety laws, and the judge asked for the Attorney General's opinion on whether any wildfires constitute a probation violation. So what was they were convicted of violating federal pipeline safety laws. So what was the penalty for that? Was that some money, some fines, slap on the wrist? Don't do that again? I don't know. Whatever. It's kind of like news, not news. But again, an interesting headline. Moving on to Thailand. Thailand Pabuk. Tourist islands hit by worst storm in decades. This is from today. Tropical storm Pabuk has lashed southern Thailand with wind and rain in what is expected to be the worst storm to hit the region in 30 years. The storm made landfall at 12:45 local time, sending trees crashing down into houses in the province of Nakhon Si Thammarat. It is moving across southern Thailand, affecting popular tourist spots. Thousands of people have left Koh Samui, Koh Tao, and Koh Phangan Islands, but many are riding out the storm. At least 2 nearby airports on the mainland have been shut, and ferry services have been suspended. Tourists stranded on Koh Samui have told the BBC that the island is seeing heavy rain, wind, and waves, and there have been short power cuts. People also say that they have been advised to stay indoors after 1600 local time until Saturday morning. Okay. Crazy little video here of some high surf and storm surge. One fisherman is reported to have died early on Friday in Patani province near the Malaysian border as waves engulfed his boat. Okay. I'm going to link this below and move on. This article Osama linked from Time magazine, how an oil boom in West Texas is reshaping the world. My view from the window seat of a small regional jet landing in Midland, Texas, is either a testament to the advances of human civilization or a sign of its impending demise, depending on your perspective. Countless oil wells, identified by their glowing red flames, dot the dark landscape. We are descending into the Permian Basin, the heart of the American oil country, where the massive oil and gas boom is changing not just Texas, but also the nation and the world. This year, the region is expected to generate an average of 3.9 million barrels per day, roughly a third of total U.S. oil production, according to the U.S. Department of Energy. That's enough to make the U.S., as of late 2018, the world's largest producer of crude. The windfall has turned a nation long reliant on foreign oil into a net exporter in a few short years. Not even the plunge in oil prices in recent months, which led some companies to scale back their plans for the Permian, has stopped the enthusiasm. Analysts predict the region's output will expand in coming years thanks to cost-reducing advances in hydraulic fracturing, better known as fracking, to release oil from shale, plus changes in U.S. export policy. By 2025, U.S. oil production is expected to equal that of Saudi Arabia and Russia combined, according to the International Energy Agency. Wow. The power of the Permian oil and gas boom is easy to spot in the basin itself, which stretches across more than 75,000 square miles of scrubby ranch land in West Texas and New Mexico. So-called man camps, hastily constructed short-term housing for oil field workers have sprung up everywhere amid new luxury construction projects and shiny billboards advertising Rolexes to laborers pulling in six-figure salaries, but the impact extends far beyond the region. During the past 3 years, the boom in these parts has transformed the U.S. economy, upended the international energy industry, undermined global environmental efforts, and tilted the balance of power among Beijing, Moscow, and Washington. In places like Saudi Arabia, uncertainty over future oil profits driven by rising U.S. production contributed to a rethinking of the economy. In theory, less reliance on Saudi oil gives the U.S. more leverage in other areas like the war in Yemen. Although the Trump administration hasn't prioritized such efforts, the vast new U.S. oil reserves have provided cover for the imposition of tough sanctions against nations like Iran and Venezuela, moves that at other times might have crippled global supply. And around the world, the boom in the U.S. has inspired other countries to race to develop their own shale resources. In the shale revolution world, no country is an island, said Fatih Birol, who leads the IEA. Everyone will be affected. The question is how. Presidents Donald Trump and Barack Obama have championed the nation's growing oil and gas markets. Abundant new shale reserves have driven economic growth and regional job creation while reducing costs for American consumers and manufacturers. Yay! Cheap gas. But analysts across the political spectrum caution that the energy windfall presents profound challenges as well. Neither energy markets nor national security are simple. They overlap in complex ways. Here, in the long term, the boom actually threatens to undermine bipartisan efforts to establish U.S. energy independence. It could destabilize international partnerships, make the U.S. vulnerable to trade retaliation, and raise formidable new hurdles in the ongoing effort to curb climate change. And that is actually the main problem with this. The nation's response to the opportunities and risks raised by the Permian Basin boom will shape our economic, environmental, and geopolitical prospects for generations. So, just to take a break, to go back to what I was talking about in the beginning, again, we certainly go forward with, the business as usual model, or fracking, or, all the things that we like to support in our economy and in our political spectrum, right? Job creation and military spending and like all those things, like we just go ahead and go do it. Like, consequences be damned. That is how we, generally operate in our paradigm. So just to move, out of this article a little bit, I might go back for a second, but if we're going to make wholesale changes, if we're going to make really deep, lasting, effective changes in how we live in order to combat our own extinction, we're going to have to do massively different things, and we're not going to have time to go like, I don't know if that's going to work or not. Like, we kind of have to get a consensus from the scientists, and the more radical, the better, right? But I don't know. I don't really see people thinking through this plan very well. Even things like the Green New Deal or the platform that the Green Party champions are pretty tame in the face of the actual problem, in the face of the severity of the problem. So the severity of the problem needs to be understood first before we actually go to the plan. So, beyond a Green New Deal, I think we need like something much more radical. I mean, I think the Green New Deal is all about, making everything more efficient and kind of like, making sure that the economy continues to go on the path that it's going. Although it does talk about a drawdown of carbon emissions, like a drastic drawdown of carbon emissions. But how you're going to do that and continue to have the economy survive in the way that it is, it's just not going to be possible. Those two things are mutually exclusive. You're going to have to talk about actually drawing down the economy. You're going to have to talk about drastically changing the idea of what a standard of living is. And that actually reminds me of a video. Somebody else linked me a video of, or sent me a video of, hold on, let me look up the country. It's the country of Bhutan, which is a Buddhist kingdom in the Himalayas. A very small country, but basically they're carbon negative. They're not just carbon neutral, but they're carbon negative, which is, obviously easy to do in a very, very small country with a very, very small economy. And they're not that advanced, right? So there's not a lot of industry there to actually draw down. But the speaker in a TED talk who was from Bhutan was talking about the fact that they measured gross national happiness as opposed to gross national product. So, we'd have to like reimagine different ways in which we value our lives and ourselves and our economy and our relationship to the earth and our, how we, get our food, how we survive. Like all of those things need to be reevaluated on a basic level. And in order to do that, you have to get people to step outside of this, this brainwashing paradigm, this, that they're in. So, more radical ideas are needed. More radical ideas are necessary. I champion any attempt at a great Green New Deal because, it's better, way, way better than, anything that's been championed by any presidents in the last, however long. So, let's at least start there. But we're going to have to get way more radical. Where are we on this article? The surge in production in the Permian came at a propitious time. In the aftermath of the 2008 recession, oil demand spiked just as drilling technology unlocked layers of rich shale. Locals are eager to tout the spoils, and Odessa, Texas, which I've driven through many times, it's kind of a bleak place. Entrepreneur Toby Eoff shows me the defunct theater the city is paying to renovate to house stage productions. Next door, Eoff and his wife are building a $79 million Marriott and Conference Center. Oh boy. Colin Sewell, who runs a group of car dealerships in the region, points out the window of his brand new office to the lot full of Ford trucks his employees serviced that day. When I visited him in September, his sales were up 50% from 2016. When it's good, it's awesome, Sewell says. A couple hours away, oh my God. So all of this is yuck. All of this is disgusting. All of this needs to just, all of this, which looks like success, American style, has to be the actual understanding of this has to be completely changed around. A couple hours away in Hobbs, New Mexico, population 37,000, Mayor Sam Cobb gave me a tour of a brand new $61 million recreation center. No, supported by the city's growing tax base. It's 158,000 square feet with 2 4-story tall water slides that loom over a giant pool. Oh boy. Soccer field and basketball and racquetball courts. Residents work out on a techno gym equipment, the Rolls Royce of exercise gear. Okay. The most detrimental effects may be the hardest to see. Some locals, like Sharon Wilson, worry about the ramifications of nonstop fracking operations in their backyard. Let's not mention the health effects, the immediate health effects and environmental effects of this. Texas native and a former oil company employee, Wilson is an organizer with Earthworks, a Washington-based environmental group, using an infrared camera to capture images of gas leaks She says she regularly detects dangers leaking from wells, including methane, a greenhouse gas that is responsible for about a quarter of global warming worldwide. Some locals have also suffered from exposure to other substances, she says, including benzene, a chemical in crude classified as a carcinogen. While it's difficult to measure the broad scale of the Permian's environmental impact or its localized effect on health, Wilson says the leaks in the basin today are the worst she has seen in her years of tracking leaks. Nothing can even come close, she says. It's unimaginable what's happening out there. So yes, this is this beautiful oil boom that started under Obama and continued under Trump, continues under Trump, with no end in sight. Nobody's taking issue with this. Nobody's, I don't know. I know that some water protectors and some organizations are protesting pipelines and construction of some facilities in Louisiana and South Dakota and some other areas. But I mean, I just don't, where's all the protesters about this? I know that some cities in Texas, was it Denton, passed a law banning fracking, but I think it was overturned by a higher court, like in the same year. And this was like 4 or 5 years ago, if I remember. Yeah, so this is not a good thing. This is a bad thing. This is a terrible thing. We need a Green New Deal stat. We need an understanding of where we are in our biosphere destruction. We need, a better understanding of that stat. Why this channel exists. It's why other channels exist. There are lots of people out there talking about this. Paul Beckwith, Humpty Dumpty Tribe, Collapse Chronicles. Nick Humphrey is doing good work. Of course, Guy McPherson, Dar Jamel, Kevin Anderson, Peter Wadhams, Jennifer Hines, Sandy at Environmental Coffee House. All the people that are trying to get this information out are having a very difficult time letting people know about this, because as one commenter said recently, that most people do not want to actually understand this or know this because it means upsetting the status quo. They want to stay in this comfort zone that we have created for ourselves, and thinking that life could or might be any other way is extremely frightening. I'm going to finish this video with a comment from All Raw Paul in response to my last video. Here are a few more words that define the situation on planet Earth. Sixth mass extinction, Anthropocene, anthropogenic climate change, humans, the unsustainable species, omnicidal species, runaway political corruption, peak everything, cyber warfare, information warfare, propaganda warfare, chaos agent, Russian agent president. Anyways, corporate kleptocracy, propaganda, delusion and denialism, addiction and commitment to unlimited growth on a finite and fragile planet, massive, accelerating overpopulation, accelerating and extreme deforestation, nuclear catastrophe, failed states, plastic poisoning of the oceans, dying forests, agriculture on the brink, imminent civilization collapse, near-term human extinction now certain, climate change is anthropogenic, abrupt, extreme, lethal, and irreversible. Knowing all this, GHG emissions increased significantly in 2018, proving the human race is corrupt, insane, unsustainable, omnicidal, and irredeemable, and determined to destroy its own habitat and cause its own extinction. Imminent blue ocean event, methane ticking time bomb, the whole world sitting on a ticking bomb, and it's about to explode. The storm to end all storms. There is no way to prepare to survive on a dead planet, doomed, no way out. Tedwaki. Shit hits the fan. The end. Thank you all, Rob Paul. I appreciate that. That was that sums up where we are. And you know, we're in bad shape. That sums up the state of, you know, the climate situation in reality. We are in very, very bad shape. So let us not talk falsely in this late hour about you know, bullshit ideas and agendas. You know, I speak about things that we possibly could do because I like to think through what the actual things that we might possibly do, what could they be? You know, not like mincy little like, well, we can try and, you know, we can try a carbon fee, or, you know, we can have some, you know, ramp up some solar power. I mean, like all those are, you know, that's fine, but we need something way more drastic than that. We need everyone to understand what the problem is and then agree to basically stop being a consumer driven, capitalistic, planet eating society. We need to stop needing to have and buy and do and ship and make all the things. We need to live simply on the earth. And what that means is have way less stuff. Think about, you know, growing growing a little patch of land of, you know, growing some food, or having a co-op, or, you know, you know, living with very minimal clothes, very minimal items in your house. You know, very limited technology. That's what it would mean to alter your lifestyle enough. And everybody would have to do this in order to impact some radical change on the earth in order to save ourselves from climate change. That is the truth. That is what is needed, and that is what is necessary. So, you know, anything less is not good enough. Anything less is most likely a death sentence, as shitty as that sounds. That's all I have for you tonight. Thank you so much for your eyes, your ears, your conscience, and your patience. If you would like to support this channel, you can do so at the links below. Until next time, peace.